What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So going into this upcoming week, fear and greed index is under the extreme fear category, 22. So in theory, people's appetite for risk isn't necessarily there on the table, but I think just expectations are very low this week because of tariffs. A lot of fear associated to that. So tariffs are going to be prompted on April the 2nd, as well as autos on April the 3rd. Autos kind of benefit Lucid, but I'm not here to talk about that. But nonetheless, though, in my opinion, which might be unpopular opinion, I actually think that a lot of the tariffs are going to be either reduced or taken off. And that's just because of what Trump did state on Friday. He mentioned that a lot of the tariffs can be negotiated. So I feel like someone who is firm on a lot of their tariffs wouldn't state that. So in my opinion, like I said, I think a lot of the tariffs might be reduced or just taken off the table. Market will really move up because of that. Even aside from that, a lot of the big data points coming out this week could really move the market in a very positive way. So starting off on Tuesday, you have JOLT numbers. Forecast right now is 7.6 million. Aside from that, you do have the same old on Thursday, so initial jobless claims. And then on Friday, non-farm payroll, unemployment, and then Powell. And even aside from Powell, you do have quite a few Fed speakers throughout the week. So at the end of the day, this might be a duplicate of what happened 3 weeks ago, because the market was in somewhat of a pullback 3 weeks ago at the beginning of, I think it was beginning of March, and then Powell came out and he surprisingly was the saving grace. He just said, hey, the data points are solid, economy is solid, we're going to be monitoring just to see for rate cuts, but most likely it's going to be higher for longer, but still economy is strong. He surprisingly saved the broader market. So we'll have to wait and see if this or that kind of does happen this time around, but I am cautiously optimistic about this week. But aside from that though, specific to Lucid, this is what they have going on. So it looks like they are going to be still doing that Encounter Extraordinary event, and so that's going to be at the meat packing up until pretty much today, so it won't be going into this upcoming week. For this upcoming week, it looks like the Sapphire is going to be in Frankfurt, and that's basically it from this, of course. The only thing that I've noticed, which a lot of people have pointed out on social media, is a lot more bigger names are calling out Lucid. So this is 𝗪𝗧𝗪, and even though I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of her, obviously she has a huge following, as does a lot of other individuals. So a lot of them are just pointing out Lucid and either how attractive it is, how like technological it is, advancement wise. So yeah, I think in general this should bring a lot of good awareness. I don't know if this is what Lucid was meaning when they were talking about a marketing pivot, because I've seen a lot of companies, usually on the smaller end, really resort to this type of marketing where you get celebrities and whatever else. I don't know if that is that good of marketing. I know it doesn't really work out in a lot of the other companies kind of scenarios, but because of their following, it might bring them to the studios just to kind of take a look at it. But I think Lucid, for marketing purposes, they need to target pretty much the 𝗪𝗧𝗪s of the world, just to buy, not to market. So I think again, Mark even stated that they haven't done any kind of marketing for the Gravity, and even pre-existing Peter kind of marketing stages was all crap. So I think Lucid's going to be learning what the market does like marketing wise. So this is something. And one other thing that did come out was, of course, the interview on Fox. Mark, I think it was random, spontaneous, very good stuff. I do want to bring up one point, only because essentially I see a lot of individuals not really, I guess, coming to the right conclusion. But when Mark seemed unsure about what company or what agreement was for the aluminum, that was this right here. So AP&T. So I just wanted to kind of point this out on what this is, because I do, obviously Lucid does have quite a few aluminum partnerships. The only one in the States, I believe, is AP&T. The rest of them are for the Middle East. So yeah, let me know your kind of general thoughts on that. Going into this upcoming week though, 23.46% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 285.1 million shares overall are being shorted. I'd love to tell you that I think that shorts are going to ease off and let Lucid run, but if Lucid, like the market's solid and moving higher, shorts increase. Typically, Lucid's having a bad day as well as the market, shorts increase typically. So I think Friday they did end up returning 231,000 shares, but throughout the beginning of the day they were increasing like 2-3 million. So they play a game, and I think they've gotten very accustomed to just succeeding with Lucid, so they're good at killing momentum and then just doing whatever they do. So yeah, I'd love to tell you that they're probably going to return, but most likely they will be kind of either keeping the status quo or slightly increasing. And you can kind of see that based on here. So it kind of just ranges between that like 22 to like 24-25% range. So not really anything. And maybe they're waiting for some big event to happen for them to prompt them to either return, or flip side for them to increase. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I did do a video under my other YouTube channel, Financial Journey, top 5 most heavily shorted EVs, and I do find it interesting. So with the tariffs being incorporated and prompted for the autos, there's a couple companies that do benefit. Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, a couple others, but those are the main 3 that people are focusing on. And it's interesting to see that both Lucid and Rivian are the number 1 and number 2 for the most heavily shorted EVs out there. So I find that very interesting. So let me know your general thoughts on that. Maybe it is foreign entities this whole time trying to really knock down Rivian and Lucid. Of course, Lucid's always been more heavily shorted than Rivian, but still, I do find that rather interesting. So aside from that though, with it closing at $2.32, looking at the open interest, that does mean that you only have 1,000 in open interest that was not expired, worthless, because that 30,000 at that 250 unfortunately is gone. So you're not really going to see any bump up come Monday as market makers cover this. Looking forward into this upcoming week though, you will see 17,000 at that 250. So for whatever reason, if Lucid does build up some good momentum, just watch for shorts to be very active around that 250 mark, just to ensure that it doesn't close above that, because market makers, shorts, don't want to cover that. So it's kind of a little bit of manipulation, or planned manipulation ahead of time. With it though, at 232, it is trading between this pivot and this S1, so $2.19 and then 208 will be the strong support levels. Flip side, 237 and then 255 will be the next strong target / resistance. There hasn't been any real substantial articles coming out, no like new ratings. So the event that did happen in September, there was a lot of analysts that loved it, jumped all over it with new ratings. Lucid's event that did happen on the 27th didn't really prompt any ratings or re-ratings, so I don't think analysts really liked it. Clearly Lucid did put in a lot of effort at that event, so just how it looked, but clearly not enough for any analyst to really change ratings. So maybe that might be coming this week, possibly, but I feel like they would have come in already. But some key points to really watch for. So 257 and then 258 are going to be these 2 points, so the 50 and 100-day moving average. 200-day moving average is sitting at $2.90. So given the circumstances, I do see best case scenario us possibly running up to these kind of resistance points right here. So the 258, 257, given just the fear in the market, unless something does substantially change, such as tariffs, I feel like it will be most likely settling around there. But given the fear in the market, I feel like that's still better than nothing. So what's your general thoughts? Do you think that we're going to be breaking out to the 3s, to the 250s, or do you think that the tariffs are fully going to be prompted and it really cause a downtrend? So what's your kind of general thoughts? Of course, like I said, what I mentioned about just the tariffs being dropped, that is unpopular opinion. But then again, if it does actually happen, then that is where you can actually make some pretty serious money. So as what happened with Lucid when it did dip to kind of the $2 range, for those individuals that did buy options at that, whether that be at the 2 or 250, then you made some pretty serious money. So if Lucid does dip again, then maybe that is something for you to consider. So research options, do what you need to do. So with all that, hopefully everyone's having a kick-ass weekend. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.